Namaste, namaste. Welcome back, everyone, to Ripples in the Sand. This podcast is brought to you by the folks at Drifting Sands Haibun, where we invite Haibun poets who have appeared in the journal to both read and discuss their poetry. This is your host, Sangita. To our regular listeners, thank you and hope you have subscribed to our YouTube channel so that you won't miss out on our activities. Please like, love, comment, and spread the word of haikai poetry to your friends. My guest today is Terri French, who needs no introduction to the many folks in the haikai world. She's on the editorial teams of Contemporary Haibun Online. She is past Southeast Regional Coordinator of the Haiku Society of America. Terri currently is a board member of the Haiku Foundation, where she has served as a secretary before. After they retired, Terri and her husband Ray decided to see their country up close. They left their brick and mortar home, got into their recreational vehicle or RV, and adopted a nomadic adventure lifestyle for a while. You can see how much poetry means to them when you hear that they name their 36 feet RV Poetry in Motion or PIM. Now, Terri enjoys hugging trees, petting moss, talking to turtles, and feeding her dog's kibble to ravens. As she says, every once in a while, one of these sentient beings will inspire a poem. I sat down with Terri when they were in Michigan and wanted to learn about the adventures they've been having and all the glorious creative works that these travels have birthed. So, after retirement, you and your husband have a nomadic life in the journey you call R Adventures. In
Our
fact,
RV adventures.
RV Adventures. So, tell
There
me,
you go.
all right. So and your RV is called Poetry in Motion. That I found so romantic. Oh my goodness. So, so can you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey or voyage until now and how it has fed your poetry, etc.?
Okay. Yeah, we started about 3.5 years ago. My husband retired. We sold our house. We sold almost all of our belongings, and we
Wow.
bought our 36-foot RV and hit the road. And 3 months after we hit the road, COVID hit.
Oh.
So yeah, and during that time, everybody decided to buy RVs and go on the road. So
Yeah, yeah,
it made
yeah.
it made planning things a little difficult. But I will tell you that we were sequestered in Northern California for 56 days, I believe. They wouldn't allow us to go anywhere at that
Oh.
time because of COVID. So we were amongst the redwoods and the banana slugs and the ocean down the
Oh,
road with the sea lions for 56 days. Hardly anybody in the park but us.
okay.
And that was wonderful. And I probably did most of my writing that I've done in the last 3 years during that 56 days because it was
Wow.
just so peaceful.
Right.
And then when, they let us go, this is our actually our third circuit around the United States.
Mm.
And we've been everywhere but 5 states. So we've bought property and hope to settle down soon, but we'll see how that goes with the price of everything. But it's been a wild ride, and it's been good because I've gotten to see so many parts of the country I've never
Mhm.
seen,
Mm.
and it has expanded my haiku as far as the kigo that I
Yeah,
use and so
yeah,
because I've been so many different places.
yeah. And
So it's
a
been
couple years, right? Couple years. So many seasons you've gone through.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So there's a poetry book coming out of this, or couple?
Well, I wrote one because I thought we were finished and going to start building our home, and then prices of things went up, and so we
Mm-hmm.
went on the road again. But I did write one book called Pulling Sunset, which has haiga and photos from our trip and
Oh,
haibun. It's just a small book. But yeah, there may need to be a part two. I don't know.
yay! That would be great. And it's a book of any book of Haibun coming up.
um,
I mean, I'm
the
sure
one Pulling
many.
Sunset. Pulling
No,
Sunset
no.
is haiga and
Yeah.
haibun.
Okay. 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 And yeah, so that's what I was wondering about all the different states you've seen. Have you seen any states again in different seasons?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what has been
Yep,
your
many.
couple of memories? Some couple of, you know.
Oh goodness gracious. And the thing is, now my husband has a very good photographic memory. He remembers where we were, when we saw certain things. And for me, I have to keep a daily journal and go back and look, or go back and look at my
Uh-huh.
Facebook
Uh-huh.
post, because it's all
Yeah.
one big jumble to me. So there have been many
Yeah.
good moments.
How do you remember
Farms.
feelings, or do you remember uh, the events? How do you categorize your memories?
Um, I take a lot of photographs, and so I'm very visual.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
remember I can see things. I don't know where I was, but I can still see them in
Uh,
my head. Certain events, certain people that we've met, different places. Uh, I kind of see in snapshots in my
yeah.
head, and then
Okay.
I'll have to ask my husband, where was that? But yeah, the desert Southwest was just beautiful because I had never
Oh.
seen that landscape before,
Uh-huh.
but my sinuses didn't care for it much.
Oh. Oh. Oh, I see.
Very dry.
Yeah. Okay. So all these lovely adventures. So I believe your first haibun is that you were going to read to us. Taxi is about one such trip, or was it
Well,
before?
this is a trip. We actually took this trip when my husband was still working, and
Hmm.
we took a cruise with, it was his high school reunion, and somebody was a travel agent he went to school with, and
Mm-hmm.
planned this cruise for us. So we were actually at port in Belize,
Mm-hmm.
and this is an experience that happened there.
Okay. So would you like to read it for us?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Taxi. We're riding in the back of a broken down Ford Falcon in Belize City with two men whom we have never met. One has long dreadlocks and the other a nervous stammer. $20 is all it costs to have them taxi us around the city for an hour. Dreadlocks drives, and the stammerer is our guide. Schoolyard. A child in uniform sweeps dirt. We pass semi dilapidated structures which have not been rebuilt since Hurricane Hattie nearly destroyed the city in 1961. The two young men argue over dates and facts, peppering Rasta flavored English with their native Creole. Cheese in rise, that done ras, says the driver to his buddy, who sighs and gazes out the passenger side window. A Virgin Mary on the dashboard. City squalor. We drive past the cemetery, and Dreadlocks tells us it's full of their young people, victims of gang violence and drug wars. With the hem of her skirt, a mother dusts his grave. We stop for beers and things loosen up. Their names are Earl and Edwin, and they've been friends since childhood. Earl says he has a computer and a girlfriend in New York City. Edwin has 4 children. He doesn't mention a wife. They drive us back to our port, where lines of flip-flop tourists wait to reboard. My husband shakes their hands, and Edwin stammers his thanks. Poolside, the waiter offers another mojito.
Hmm, I love it. I love all the descriptions, and I especially love that the little the haiku, a Virgin Mary on the dashboard, city squalor. Oh, that's just beautiful. It's just
We
beautiful.
try when we travel um, to not always do touristy things. And we were getting some looks when we got in that taxi from other people that were on board with us, like, what are you doing? But I will tell you, it's those experiences when you go outside of your comfort zone
Yeah,
that you really, it's that you remember, I think.
right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that. This is so beautiful. So beautiful. Uh, I was wondering, just do you think there's a difference between looking at a poem as an editor versus a poet? Uh, I ask this because
Hmm.
a lot of our listeners do submit, right, everywhere. And um, I don't know that we all know what are the restrictions an editor has to work within, you know? Is there a framework?
Uh,
No?
I wouldn't say that there are restrictions. I try
Let's say
not to
number of
say,
pages or something like that, you know? I don't know. I
yeah,
just,
I don't know. I don't work with the idea of rules and restrictions because sometimes
Mhm.
and it's something that I would have never written myself really, really works. And maybe it's unconventional. Um, some haibun are long, some haibun are short, some have many haiku, some have one haiku. Some, the prose is written even as verse. And, some are very abstract, some are very concrete. So for me, it's just whatever works, you know. Um, the only thing I would say that I do differently as an editor, which I need to do more for my own writing, it's easier when you're editing than when your own writing, it's close to your heart. It's easier to cut some things from other people's work, but it's not so easy to cut things from your own work.
Yeah.
But I often find that the real meat of the story is in the middle, and sometimes what you begin with or what you end with
Ah,
can go away. You
right,
know,
right. So
I have a
what
tendency of
do you think
trying
there's
to
a
tie
trick to
things up.
it, maybe? Is there a
Pardon me?
is there a trick to it to figuring out when to edit, how to edit? I wonder.
Just playing around with it, taking things out, seeing
Mhm.
if it works, putting it back in, you know. I think it's good to leave a little bit out to leave your reader wanting a little bit, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Right.
So just play with your work. Don't, the first draft I usually put away and then get it back out. And I would say that's a good idea when you first write something and you're so in love with it and you send it off,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
don't send it off quite so quickly.
True, true, true. How long have you sat on a haibun before looking at it again? I mean, I know some poets have sat on their haibun for years.
Oh, yeah, I know. No, I don't think I've ever done that. Gosh, I'm thinking like, a week.
Okay, okay.
Never, I
Yeah.
have never done that, but hey, everybody does things differently.
Do you ever change your haibun little wordings when you look at it again? Say,
Oh,
even
yeah.
if it is published, say, even if it is published, do
Oh,
you
even
ever?
if it's published, wishing I
Mhm,
had changed something.
mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all valid. If Terry does it.
Yeah, I do it. Well,
Oh,
that's what I tell, people who submit to me too. Is like, don't, I mean, I've been rejected hundreds of times. So, don't put your editor on a pedestal by any means.
Well, well, uh,
And if you don't agree with suggestions that an editor makes, tell them so.
yeah,
Sometimes we do a lot of working back and forth to get it where
yeah,
they're happy with it. And
yeah,
sometimes people will, and I have too, just said, I'm sorry, I really, sometimes you don't want to change a piece, and
yeah.
that's your prerogative.
Right, right, right. Yeah. And so my question is that, so how close to a deadline can you submit if you want a, I mean, if for a dialogue like this? So I'm thinking that if you submit right on the deadline, right? So the time to have a dialogue is much less, right? Because I assume
Yeah.
that the editor gets like hundreds of submissions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, uh, yeah, it can be very, very time consuming. And,
Mm,
that's that's another reason why I say don't be offended if sometimes your piece is not going to get in, just simply because sometimes I don't have the time to do a lot of back and forth,
right.
and I might just offer you some suggestions and say resubmit the next submission period,
Ah,
just because
okay.
I just don't have the time,
Right,
with
right, right.
hundreds of Haibun to give everybody the attention that I
Yeah,
would love to do.
yeah,
But there are deadlines.
yeah. And it's physically impossible at times, right,
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that.
And mentally.
Yeah. Okay, so uh, I was just wondering. So, shall we go and would you like to read the next one? My initial
Sure.
mistake, and this is
Okay.
from your
My initial mistake, yeah, that one's from my book Keepers.
Yep.
And if people aren't familiar with that book, it's all written in the voice of a little Southern boy. And my both of my boys were little Southern boys, so I know that voice. And I would say that I made up this character, but I like to think that he's pretty real, so I don't want to
Yeah,
offend him
yeah.
by saying that. So this is called My Initial Mistake.
Mhm.
Mama was madder than a wet hen at me today. I used my pocket knife to carve my initials into the top of my oak desk, the one Daddy's papaw made for him when he was just a boy. JTB for Jared Travis Blankenship in 1 inch high letters, purty as you please. But I reckon what I thought was purty and what Mama thought was purty was not one in the same. The preacher's ugly baby, precious.
I love hearing you say is read your poems. It's so beautiful. I love your accents, and as it is, I'm in love with the southern accent. I just love it.
Well, my husband says that I should read JT poems last because if I don't, every other poem I read is in a southern accent. So I'll try not to do that.
You were in Alabama, weren't you?
Oh
Or
my goodness. Yes, I moved to Alabama in 87
uh
from Michigan.
okay,
So I kind of have a strange,
mix.
mixed up sound to my voice. I go, y'all, you guys, and everything else.
Oh, so beautiful though. Even in the first one, where you talk, uh, you say cheese and rice. That dialogue, that piece, you
Yeah.
said it in the accent. So you do accents very well.
Oh, thank you.
Ah,
That's what they say, though. I thought it was so funny. I had to look it up. It's actually, cursing cheese and rice, but
is that so?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, really? I would never have guessed. I was kind of starting to feel hungry, but it's not. Oh, you're right. Before we go ahead, would you like to read the next one, 86th, please?
Okay, I'll try not to read it in an southern accent.
Oh, please go for it.
No, no, this one should not be in a southern accent. Let me see. Pull it up. So, 86th is a term, I think it began in the military, but it's used
Yeah.
often in the restaurant industry. That means, you're not welcome or get rid of
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
Oops, I lost my place. Just 1 second, please.
So first you sent the,
Okay, I
you
found
found
it.
it. Okay.
Yay. Yeah.
All right. So 86th.
Okay, 86th. His feet on the metal footrests curl in like evening lotus. The ash on his filterless cigarette threatens to fall into his lap at any moment. I point my finger to direct his attention to it. He flicks the ash and stuffs the butt into an empty beer can. He says no one has been to visit since we came, over a year ago. Yeah, so anyway, what was I saying again, guys? I'm sorry. My memory's shot. This man used to be our favorite server bartender at our favorite restaurant. He always remembered our names, how we liked our steaks cooked, and what type of wine we liked. And he always sat us at the cozy table for two by the fire. Now he lives in a group home, his once tall body crumpled into a wheelchair, a product of a life lived too fast and too hard. After hours, a fifth of Jack and eggs over easy.
This one is so hard hitting.
It is,
So
and
hard.
it makes me tear up just reading it, and
Yeah.
it's just very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people go through this though. It's, yeah. After hours, a fifth of Jack and eggs over easy. Oh my gosh. Mm.
It's fairly common, I
Yeah.
think, in that industry.
Mm. Mm. So I've noticed that I'm going through keepers right now. I love it,
Mhm.
and I find that you do you often write poems that have a fictional narrative. So mostly poets say that poetry or haibun is a personal journey. Is it? I'm wondering now, is it about weaving a fictional piece around an experience? Where is that line drawn? And, you know,
Again with I don't draw lines.
that's great.
I have a very vivid imagination, so anything that I write that is fictional is just as real, if not more real, sometimes than reality.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and a lot of times, things that I write that are fictional begin from a seed of something true
Yeah,
or have truth
yeah,
interwoven in it. Uh, truth, I don't know. Truth fiction, I don't think there's a black and white with regards to that. So
yeah.
if the reader reads something and it feels real to them and it evokes emotion in them, then it works,
Right, right, right.
whether you've made it up or it actually happened.
Yeah, yeah. So, and what about the voice of the poet? I mean, do you feel that um, does it get lost in when you write a fictional piece, or does it get enhanced? What do you feel?
Sometimes I think I write better in a voice that's other than my own.
Yeah, it probably
I,
gives you
I
more.
have a lot of
Yeah.
I have a lot of voices up in my head, so They have to come out somehow,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is probably the most sane way is to write them out.
Safe as well.
Uh, yeah, the only thing is when you write in another voice, yeah, like I said with JT,
Yeah.
then sometimes that voice stays with you for a while. So it's best not to write something else right after that because you're going to stay in that voice,
Oh, you that's
you know?
right. That's right. Yeah.
Kind of like with drama, I suppose, when you play a
Yeah.
character, I would think that character becomes very real to you and it's hard to shake off sometimes.
That's true. That's true. But it can also be freeing, don't you think, to
Oh, yeah.
think in from the shoes of another character, so you're not bound by your own you know lines, as I would say. What do you think?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, when I write, sometimes I just get bored with my own voice.
Come on.
I do. So I decide to write in someone else's for a while.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, so I would like to invite you uh, to your last one, um, Sparks. Oh, by the way, the 186 was published in Frog Pond, was it? And
I don't have that down here right now, but probably.
hmm, okay. And my initial mistakes. Oh yeah, I see it here. My initial mistakes. It appears in Haibun, a writer's guide by Roberta Berry, Lou Watts, and Rich Humans. Uh,
Yes, they did put a piece of that in there.
uh,
I was very proud.
yeah, yeah. It's a nice book, isn't it? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
really,
A wealth of
yeah,
information in that book.
yeah. It's great for, especially for a start. Somebody who's starting to write Haibun. That's a great book. Anyway, so shall would you like to read Sparks? Say something about it first, because it's a
Sure.
collaboration, right?
Right. I wrote the prose, and my friend Brian Rickert, a wonderful poet, he wrote the haiku. And this is a fictional piece, but it began with something real. We were driving the RV. We were in Texas, and we were driving down the road, and I saw this building with something on the side of it, and it got my brain going, and I created a story over what I saw. That it is a fictional piece.
Wow. Okay, let's hear it.
And Brian was kind enough to do the haiku, and it is titled Sparks. The seed of their dream was planted while popping caps with a rock on the sidewalk of Roosevelt Elementary. When they were 16, Mike wrote Wanda's name with a sparkler in the sky, outlining the fading letters with a heart. They married right after high school and set up a trailer on Wanda's folks' property. A year later, the gender of their only child, Roman, was revealed at a family picnic by setting off a rocket that sent blue pearls high into the night sky. Independence Day, before the show, The Stars. Mike worked as a mechanic and was a volunteer fireman, which mostly meant shooting pool and a few beers with the other guys once a week and putting out the occasional rare barn fire. Wanda cut hair in a gussied up shed behind their trailer. They eventually saved up enough to rent a small cinder block building just outside of town. Mike and Wanda's Fireworks was painted in red, white, and blue on the side of the building, along with a green alien that Roman insisted upon. The shelves were stocked with sparklers, firecrackers, bottle rockets, Roman candles, cherry bombs, ground spinners, and of course, a box of caps by the register, one free roll with every $20 purchase. Wanda quit cutting hair to run the place, with Mike helping out on the weekends. Fire flowers, the flash bang of young love. Once Mike retired, Roman and his wife Celeste took over the store, with Ma and Pa popping in when it suited them. Roman put his own spin on the business by adding a snow cone machine and an old Asteroids arcade game in the back room. But the place would always be Mike and Wanda's fireworks. Grand finale, holding hands till the end. When Mike passed a few years later, the volunteer fire department put on a fireworks spectacular to compete with the 4th of July. The entire community came out with lawn chairs and blankets spread out on the grass to ooh and ah in Mike's memory. Before the funeral service began the following day, Wanda approached the casket, tucking a roll of caps in the breast pocket over Mike's heart. She said, "Meet you on those streets of gold, honey. I'll bring the rocks." Long after the sparks, wind-blown smoke losing its shape.
Ah, what a lovely story. Oh my God. I feel like crying now, especially the little gesture of, uh, Wanda putting the roll of caps. Oh, but tell me, what was the building like when the one that
Oh, it was just
inspired
like
this? Did it have an
it
alien thing?
was.
Because you said you were going through
Yeah,
Texas.
it was a tiny. And I've told you we've done 3
Uh huh.
circuits. So the first circuit is when I saw that building, and just this last time, our third circuit, I said, "Look, there's Mike and Wanda's again." We went to buy the same place again, so it's still there. It's just this concrete cinder block little building, and on the side, great big red, white, and blue Mike and Wanda's fireworks, and there's a green alien head there,
Wow.
and my mind
Yep.
just kind of took it from there.
It's just, yep. Goes to
But for
show.
you to say, it means so much for me to say that it almost made you cry, because that's what I say, then it's real,
Yes, this is true.
right?
This is
Even
true.
though it's fictional, it's real.
Yeah, yeah, and it's born out of something real, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, who knows who Mike and Wanda are? Or if they have a child named Roman, I don't know.
Yeah, those are details, but there are people who do this, right? They have this kind of life,
Hmm.
right? It's simple, but yeah, but love. Mm. So tell me about collaborations.
I love collaborating. Um, and I will try it with anyone. Brian and I have been collaborating for years,
Uh,
mostly Renge,
uh-huh.
but sometimes other forms, and it just
Yeah,
works. And for me, it's a great thing to do. Like if you're feeling
yeah,
stuck, and then collaborate with someone else, and I just think it gets things going again.
right, right,
It's a lot of fun.
right. And you also get to see. Oh, I love seeing the thoughts intermingle. The styles and thoughts intermingle. Your style and Brian's
Hmm.
style, for example. I just love to see that
Well, and sometimes you expect something to go one way, and then that other person will take it
somewhere else.
totally somewhere else. And it's just like, oh, that's really cool. You have to be able to not have expectations so much, because you don't know where it's going to go
Yeah.
necessarily.
Ah, so beautiful. So I just wanted to check with you. One last thing. So where next? Where are you going next? What's up?
Where are we going physically next?
Both. Both. I also mean, where are you going with your poetry as well? I mean, what's up next? And also physically, um, you're in.
Well, these last few months we've been moving. I wanted to visit my son in Oregon, and then I wanted to be back for H&A, so that's Oregon to
Oh,
Cincinnati. So we were traveling. Yeah, we were just setting up and tearing down and moving. And for me, like I told you, when I was in Northern California and had all those days of peace at one place, I really need that to get in the writing mood.
mhm.
It's been a little chaotic lately. But what I've been working on is hopefully putting together another book, a collection of haibun, some older, some newer. I'm working on that slowly. And physically, we're hoping to come to your state,
Yay!
Minnesota,
That would be fun.
and up into the East Coast. I want to see the colors,
Yeah,
in autumn in the East
yeah,
Coast.
yeah.
And headed back to Huntsville, Alabama by the holidays. And maybe next year start to build a house
Oh,
so
wow.
I can have a writing space, so to speak.
Isn't your writing space in your head, though? I mean, all this while, you've been quite productive.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that.
I said that all this while you've been quite productive, even though you were on the road. So it feels like writing spaces in your head.
Yeah, there are times when I've been prolific and like with everyone, and then times where you
Yeah,
just have a dry spell,
yeah,
So it'll come
yep.
back. Right now, I'm kind of coming out of a dry spell a little, so it'll come back.
Yeah. So, of all your travels, which is there any particular place where you've been, which is most provoked poetry?
I don't know.
Sorry that you knew that
Well,
question
again,
was
I'm
coming.
going back to the redwoods just
Okay.
because I had never. The scale is just mind-boggling to
Yeah,
me. You know,
yeah.
to, to look up and see these giant redwoods, and then because I spend a lot of time looking down. I look at little things. I
Mhm.
like the moss and the insects and uh, flowers, and to look up and see all that was just inspiring to me.
Yeah,
And of course, we were near the ocean, and ocean waves kind of
yeah,
loosen things up in me.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
haven't been near an ocean in a while.
That's an extended
But
forest
this
bathing.
is a beautiful country.
It
I would
is.
say if you haven't traveled, travel, and it's the best thing that you can do for your mind, to meet different people, go different places, see scenery. I didn't travel a lot as a kid, so it's been really great for me to see
Yeah,
things differently.
yeah,
I mean, see them differently with my eyes, and also, you know, in my head as far as
yeah,
different ways of
yeah.
life,
Perspectives.
and that we're all connected.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Wonderful. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Terry. It's been such a pleasure. I mean, I've been following your adventures on Facebook, etc., living vicariously through your adventures. It's yeah, yeah. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us some time this
Well,
morning.
thank you very much.
Mm,
Thanks for having me.
It was,
Enjoyed it.
yeah, it was our pleasure. All right, thank you.
Hmm.
That, my friends, was Terry French reading some of her work and sharing her adventures with us. Terry's books, including Keepers, are available on Amazon and also from her website www.terrilfrenchhaiku.com. That is www.terrilfrenchhaiku.com. The music for Ripples in the Sand is from Gran Art Music. This podcast is produced by Richard Gran, and this is Sangita Colorical signing off. Thank you for listening.